Next issue is a very important issue. The issue is the Khalistan movement. Recently also in news, Khalistan issue has been come up. So definitely it becomes part of your exam. Directly question, even if it is not asked, it is a problem, and this problem can be quoted as a single point in your exam. But my responsibility is to teach you holistically from history to the coming nearest current affairs, what exactly is the Khalistan issue and Khalistan movement. So Khalistan is a region that it is being said that it should be carved out of the Punjab area of India, then some portions of Pakistan also, and should be made a separate homeland or separate country for the people of Sikh. Okay, so this is the Khalistan movement. Secessionist tendency is there in this particular movement, and I must tell you in advance that this particular movement, the issue is not from India. Indian people, Indian Sikh community, it totally understand that yes, they are part of India. They have always been part of Hindustan as such in ancient history, in medieval history also. But there are some groups who try to fuel this issue at international forum. There are protests that happen in US, there are protests that happens in UK, and on international soil, these groups, what they are trying to do, they want to make this issue as an international issue and showcast the problems of Sikh, which is actually not true. Sometimes there are allegations definitely, but it is not true, and the issue which it should be there confined within the Indian boundary, they are trying to propagate this issue throughout the world, that what atrocities are being done on Sikh people. But I must also tell you that Sikh community, the community has tremendously ensured their efforts have been seen, and their contribution, immense contribution has been seen by the Sikh community, whether it is in the freedom struggle, whether it is in the army, military or other security forces. The contribution of the religion, spirituality also, Sikhism, it has been seen that it is part of the Indian way of living, and we cannot deny a country without the Sikh religion and Sikh people. We cannot deny that we cannot say that India is in itself can be seen without the people of the Sikh community. So Sikh community has tremendously contributed to the upliftment of the country, even in United Nations peacekeeping mission. But there are again some groups who says that the country should be made separately out of it. So it's a very sensitive issue, and we should focus on the basic in short span of time. I will explain you the basics of the movements that were started in the past, but how they turned up into Khalistan movement. Okay students, so let's come to the past, let's come to the history. You would have heard about this in your history portion, that Namdharis, you must know about Namdharis. It was a group that was formed in 1857 by the leader was Baba Ram Singh, and the group was formed for the purpose so that the Sikh religion, Sikh community should be boosted, and it should be kept out of the evils like cattle protection should be there, like beef consumption should not be there. So whatever may be the beliefs of Guru Gobind Ji, these particular Namdharis, they try to follow the rituals, the practices, and in fact Khalsa is being promoted. 5 symbols of the Sikh community, it was ensured that people of Sikh community should wear those 5 symbols, and for this purpose the Namdhari movement is started in 1857. Then later on there came Sikh Sabha movement. Sikh Sabha movement came up in 1873, and the purpose behind is that there were 5 points I have mentioned to protect the community of Sikh, because Christianity was prevailing and the conversions were going on. So to protect the identity of the Sikh people, this particular organization, the movement was formed. Secondly, Punjabi language should be promoted and Sikh community should understand the importance of Punjabi language, and so for the propagation of the language, the Singh Sabha movement or Sikh Sabha movement started. Then third is the intellectual growth on the people of the Sikh. They must understand their religion, their ethnicity, their language. And fourthly, Adi Granth Sahib, Guru is called as Guru, and it should be protected, and Sikh principles and ideals must be protected. So this is the purpose behind forming a Singh Sabha movement, and ultimately such kind of establishment at Amritsar in 1873 it happened, and such movements, such organizations, such groups, such meetings, they happened. Later on, Akali movement happened. Students, Akali movement was because of the Udasi, जो महंत हुआ करते थे, Udasi महंत of Gurdwara, they were called as corrupt. So corrupt Udasi mahants, the movement was against them to topple them, and we also call it by another name, Gurudwara reform movements, right? But then later on in 1929, Motilal Nehru report came. So I am hoping that you have gone through your history in detail, and it would become easier for you to understand the topic. Within the Motilal Nehru report, most of the communities and religions and organizations, they rejected the report. So I am telling you this because there was a person called as Tara Singh. He was basically the Sikh leader at that point of time of Shiromani Akali Dal, right? The organization Shiromani Akali Dal, he was the leader, and Tara Singh actually then rejected the report. He was one of them, of the leader of the Sikh community, and he rejected the report as stating that there should be separate land or region and area for Sikh community. So I am mentioning it because here we can say that separation, the seeds of separation somewhere has been planted, and the dream has been seen where Sikh community should be given a separate region. They should be given separate status of region, where these kind of things started. They started prevailing before independence only, but then partition of India happened, and Punjab was further divided in the regions in Pakistan and some of the regions in India. But then another movement started, that is called as Punjabi Subha movement. Punjabi Subha movement, this movement was for reorganization. It is said that there should be reorganization of Punjab along the lines of linguistic basis and seeking, there should be a division, actually seeking division on the basis of Punjabi speaking and non-Punjabi speaking communities. Okay. So students, it is for 19 years, in fact, this particular movement it prevailed, and you can see in the photograph also that from 1951 to 1966 this was the condition of the particular region, which later on in 1966 was carved out into 3 separate states. One was Himachal Pradesh, second was Haryana. So Haryana was Hindu dominated. Himachal is the, we can say, the hilly portions of the Punjab region, which were later earlier called as Punjab, but this was a hilly regions, and other communities also reside here. So Punjab, Himachal Pradesh has been formed, and this portion of Punjab, a separate state, has been given to the Sikh people. On the basis of linguistic lines, this particular thing happened. But definitely if some kind of a decision is being taken, some of the people will not be happy, and considering that part, Anandpur Sahib resolution was passed. Within this resolution in 1973, a group of people of Sikh community, they demanded that they want now a proper separate region for themselves. So a popular leader was there, that is called as Jarnail Singh. And Anandpur Sahib resolution, what it used to say is that the Sikh, they demanded autonomy for state of Punjab, and not just autonomy for the state of Punjab, but they also wanted their own constitution. Their own constitution must be framed. And we say, while framing of their own constitution, definitely this is against the Indian constitution, and there we can see the seeds of Khalistan has been sown. Here the word Khalistan has been used and the seeds has been sown. However, the purpose, the particular seeds for separation from the particular India as such, and also having a separate place for the people of Sikh, these seeds were sown by the leader Tara Singh earlier, before independence as well. So students, this is the story all about, but later on what happened is that we know that particular group of people, the violent activities happened, and these particular group of people, they took shelter in Golden Temple. And in 1984 also there was a operation conducted by Indira Gandhi ji, Operation Blue Star. And within this operation, many of the terrorists, we can say the people who were fighting for their cause, they were killed. And since it's a very sacred place, so Indira Gandhi was also somewhere being alleged that she should have not taken that particular aggressive step. And considering that particular reasoning, her bodyguards, the Sikh bodyguards, they shot dead Indira Gandhi. Assassination of Indira Gandhi happened. And then later on in 1984, violent activity started, and Sikh community, it was oppressed severely in 1984. A lot of communal rights happened in the country. It is past, though it is a very dark past of our country. And then many of the people, they flown away to other countries, like they went to Canada, they went to UK, US, and now they started another kind of movement on the foreign soil, stating the pro-Khalistan movement. And in foreign countries, such movements, such marches, such protests are seen. In fact, you will not believe, in the cricket, at a time of cricket matches, we have seen slogans of Khalistan. And during farmers' protest also, in recent news, the slogans were seen. Some news is also there in just recently that on the walls of capital city, they were seen that the pro-Khalistan movement slogans are there. So this has been in news, though the issue, they're trying to, these particular outfits, these particular groups, they're trying to make this issue as an international issue. But the people of India who are living in India, they totally understand that they were the part of India, and they are, and they will, and they can do anything for the country. The patriotism, the nationalism cannot be ignored. Then actually, seeing the situation, Pakistan support is there. It can be said that at the foreign soil, these particular outfits, they're being supported by the external state actors like Pakistan. And there is one organization called as Khalistan Liberation Force. It was active in 1980s, but recently it was seen since 2009 in Malaysia. This organization is been reactivated again, and the particular organization behind is basically ISI, the intelligence service of Pakistan. It is supporting again Khalistan Liberation Force to try to uplift this issue again. Then recently we have seen referendum 2020 slogans, and this referendum 2020 slogans, they are again trying to push this issue forward. So there is a community called as Sikh for Justice. You can quote this community. This is basically US based community, and it has called for, you can state these lines in your exam, called for global Sikh community in more than 20 countries, that the demand for separate country should be pushed, and this is how referendum 2020 slogans were seen, and what they are trying to do, they are trying to revive the Khalistan movement. Okay, but I've already told you that people of Sikh community, they have always been very helpful, they've always been pro-Indian, and they will be, and but there are few fractions who want to make Khalistan as a very big issue. So in future only we can see what other activities happen in this particular issue, but since it has been in use, sometimes we have seen slogans, so definitely it's a very sensitive issue, students. What I would advise is, do not take there should not be any kind of inclination that should be seen in your answer, because in that case your marks can be deducted. So focusing on the main topic now, that is cross-border terrorism. I'll take you to another side topic, that is cross-border terrorism. So within the terrorism, the cross-border terrorism has been a problem, that there are incidences of infiltration, and the Pak sponsored, sometimes this infiltration we have seen that there is a sponsorship given by the Pakistan as a country, and ISI, I have already told you the motto behind what ISI wants. So this cross-border terrorism, this question can come up in the exam in future, and this has resulted definitely in militancy in J&K, then Indian Mujahideen issue I have already explained. So this part I have explained, and next I am going to explain about the trust funding. So cross-border terrorism, what they do, actually people from the other state, other terrorist outfits, they come to India, then they reside in India, and then for getting money, how they do get the money, the purpose, and how do they get the money? There are some organizations, for example, one is Al Rashid of Karachi, and another is basically Rabita Trust of Islamabad. These organizations are basically creating their financial networks, and there are fake bank accounts as well, and using these fake bank accounts they used to transfer money in India using such trust. So they were in news and they were caught actually. And terror funding, I would say, if a question comes up on terror funding, then you must quote these examples, and this is how they try to give support, financial support to the people who do cross border, and then they fuel or use this money maybe for getting arms, or maybe for their survival. If we choke this terror funding, then definitely we can counter terrorism. So this is one of the examples. If it is asked how can we control terrorism issue, then choking the funds is one of the best examples or a point that you must mention in your exam. Then there is hawala transactions. So what do you mean by hawala transactions? I'll just explain you in short. Let us suppose you are in Dubai and a person is there in Mumbai. Similar diagram shows the same thing I'm talking about. In Dubai, if a person is there A, and in Mumbai the friend is there called as B. Now it is not possible to send money directly from A to B using bank account, or else it will be caught, and the money would also be definitely needs to be put into the account. A transaction will be seen and you can be easily caught. So what they use is they use dealer. So there is a dealer number 1, or you can say, yes, we can quote them 1, and there is another dealer number 2. Now these two are in contact. If a person A in the Dubai goes to dealer number 1 A and says, here is the money, I want you to transfer it to my friend B. So the dealer number 1 says, okay, give this password to your friend and let him contact the particular dealer in the Mumbai, who is sitting in the Mumbai currently. So you give this password to your friend, and your friend goes to the dealer number 2 sitting in Mumbai and then say the password, and once the password is being matched and it is being contacted, the person will give you the money. This is called as Hawala transaction. Without using the proper channel of transaction, bank accounts or bank statements, there is no transaction that will be registered, and a person can get money anywhere throughout the world because these dealers are distributed. And how come, if you ask me, how come these particular dealers, they transfer money from one place to another? Because here you might be giving cash in dollars and here you might be receiving in rupees. They are also doing exchange of money. They definitely do it via money laundering techniques or maybe black money transactions, and I will separately teach you these particular topics. Students, there are some kind of shell companies, and using such shell companies, such transactions can be done, and the government will not be able to catch them. So these kind of donations, they can be from Islamic countries in the name of jihad, so people can be supported. Hawala transactions can be there where money support and money transactions can be done from one part to another. Then the earnings can be there from the drug trafficking, human trafficking, arms trafficking, and such money, illicit money, can be transferred from one place to another. There can be fake currency notes as well that can be issued, FICN, issuing the fake Indian currency notes, and definitely this fake currency is another issue, another problem, and the terrorist funding happens using this. Organized crime I've already explained, and linkage of terrorism and organized crime I will explain you in separate video as well. So remember this. Then when we talk about cross-border terrorism, Hawala transactions are definitely there. From the external state, different countries, from different parts of the countries, the money can be transferred to the people. Then I've already raised the issue of sleeper cells. These sleeper cells, they can get money, or terrorist organization can also be funded. So what factors are there which are actually facilitating this cross-border incursion or cross-border terrorism is being happening? So what factors, responsible factors? Definitely one factor is that there is a complex geography of our country. There are mountains, there are rivers, and because of this, geographically we are in a situation of complex areas, and remote areas are there. The border is porous, and we are not able to secure these porous regions from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, and via different route, ocean route also, these people, illegal migrants or cross-border terrorism is being flourishing, and infiltration attempts have increased also. In fact, after COVID-19 also, it is being said that the infiltration attempts have increased. So students, to counter this, there is a comprehensive, integrated border management, border. So students, to counter this, there is comprehensive, integrated border management approach. I will teach you about this particular approach in the topic of border management separately, but you must remember that these points can be clubbed together and a proper holistic answer can be written. Okay, even if you will study in the border management topic, you can quote this as an example here. Then students, for this purpose, what we are actually trying to do, we are trying to use technology for the purpose of securing borders. And what we are trying to do is, we are also in focus of using robots in future, so that these robots can be installed in the areas where the human presence can be difficult at extreme environmental conditions or winter conditions. Then we are trying to use satellite images. We are also trying to use equipments, better equipments like thermal imaging. Thermal imaging means that there will be radiation of heat and from the body of the living organism, whosoever living organism, whatsoever living organism is there, if there is liberation of heat, even if the individual is hiding, the liberation of heat will let us know that yes, there is a presence of a person at such and such point of time. And ultimately we are also trying to fence our borders. Proper fencing, we are trying to introduce proper fencing, and we are also trying to use drones for surveillance in the border areas. So you can make a proper answer out of this, right students? Then there is lack of strategic thinking. Yes, there is a lack of strategic thinking in how to counter this particular porous border, but now we can say that we have in past 2-3 years, when we talk about lack of strategic thinking, we are talking about last 60 years. But now recently, from last 4-5 years, we are more vigilant about it, and we are definitely trying our best. So this is the corrective measure, and this is the problem, this is the factor. Ultimately, definitely there is a support of non-state actors, terrorist groups. They are supporting these particular militants, insurgents who are infiltrating terrorist outfits. And Pakistan ISI role I have already explained, and internal support. There may be some kind of internal support, some political parties, some organization, some religious organizations, maybe some kind of political groups. They can also support the cross-border terrorism for their own purpose, for their own profit and advantage. And corruption. If there is a corruption at a government official level, then definitely people who need to be caught, they will not be, and they will be let go, and they will be set free because corruption activities, they prevail in our country, right? So I have given you 7 points. Using these 7 points, you can frame a 10-mark good answer if such question comes up regarding cross-border terrorism. What is cross-border terrorism? How Pakistan is sponsoring this cross-border terrorism, and what factors are influencing. Okay students, this can be a proper answer in your exam. Next topic is the reasoning behind for the spread of this terrorism. So students, what we are talking about? We are talking about the spread of the terrorism. Mark my word, we are talking about spread of the terrorism. But I have seen students, when they are asked what is the cause behind the terrorism, what they answer? They say the cause behind the terrorism is the poverty, is unemployment. They say hunger is there, and inclusive growth nahi hai. Inclusive growth is a problem. And stating these reasons, they say it is a cause of terrorism. Remember students, if an examiner is checking your copy properly, he or she will cut down your answer straightforwardly, because you want to say that if there is unemployment, then terrorism will happen. No. Actually, there is a difference between cause and spread. The cause behind the terrorism can be ideology. The ideology of the group who wants to propagate their political religious ideology. But when we say spread means why it is spreading at a faster rate in countries which are economically not sound. Because if we talk about developed countries, the government has enough resources to spend on its people that they do not feel inclined towards joining the terrorist outfits. But it is not the case with India, or it is not the case with the countries which are very poor, like West Asia countries or Middle East countries. So students, these particular reasons, if you are giving for the cause, it is not the right answer. But yes, these particular reasons are the reason behind the spread of terrorism. So that is why I am saying economic reasons can be there for the people who are undergoing poverty and unemployment phase. They can join terrorist organizations for these particular reasons because they are economically not sound. Then another example is the illicit money. Whatever money they are making out of the organized crime, they can fund the terrorist outfits using that money. So students, this is the example. This photograph is showing that opium is growing, And opium growing region, I must tell you, Golden Crescent is the region where opium is grown at a very large quantity. Afghanistan, three countries are actually part of the Golden Crescent: Iran, Afghanistan and Pakistan, and that is why we can say that yes, Afghanistan is being impacted by terrorism, and whatever funding they are getting from the rich opium growth, and the opium can be used as a drugs, and the flourishing of the drug activities are happening, and drug trafficking is a basic major menace, and that is how the terrorist organizations being funded. I'll take an example actually, so let me clean the slide. I'll take example of Taliban. Taliban is, its influence is there in Afghanistan, and the resources it has captured is opium growing regions. Similarly, if someone asks you what is the difference between ISIS, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, and Taliban, so you can say that yes, similarly ISIS also occupied the resources of oil wells, but their presence is in Middle East. However, the Taliban presence is in Afghanistan, okay, West Asia. Though both the organizations, they are spreading terrorism in the name of the religion, but their major purpose is caliphate. Though both the particular organizations, they are believing in the Sharia law, but students, you must know their location also. As I've told you, their resources that are being captured, and the Taliban, the focus of Taliban is gaining political power also. So the purpose of the Taliban is to focus on the political power also. That is why they have gained political power in Afghanistan, and they are also in fighting because ISIS is trying to show its presence in the Afghanistan area. But since last 1 decade, these two fractions are also fighting amongst each other. They are not together. So you must know the difference, basic difference. You need not to do any PhD in this particular topic, but you just must know the basic difference, right? The next point for the spread of terrorism is mass media. And using mass media, I've already told you, radicalization, recruitment of new people, polarization in the society, this all can be done, and because of which there can be in future lone wolf attacks that can also happen. So I've already told you about this particular thing, and this topic we'll discuss in separately. The third reason and the fourth reason is spillover effect. Means that if there is a terrorist activity going on in one region, in one country, the country that is next to it will also be impacted. For example, Afghanistan, then its impact is seen in Pakistan, and then its impact is seen in India. So there are regions, there are countries which are somewhere impacted, and the terrorist problem is not just a single individual Indian problem. The problem exists with respect to globally. Mexico, USA is in conflict. Israel, Palestine is in conflict. Yemen, I've told you, is in conflict. African nations are also there. And if the resources are not being used properly, then also there can be conflicts, and one such example is Sudan, where South Sudan was formed because there were not a proper utilization of the resources. So this point is the resource scarcity. The point I have mentioned here is resource scarcity. You can give the example of South Sudan here, right? Next is technological factor. There is the purpose, the reasoning behind the spread of terrorism can be technological factor also, because there are new forms of terrorism activity which are prevailing, just like cyber terrorism. And in fact, you can use the example of cryptocurrency. Now the terrorist also using cryptocurrency as a mode of funding to each other, and though it is a science and technology topic, but you must be able, you must have the capacity to interlink these topics, because then only UPSC will ask you how cryptocurrency is somewhere responsible for spreading cyber terrorism. So now both the topics are interrelated. Then students, we also must know about political legitimacy. In our country, there are many political powers are there, many political parties are there basically, and for gaining advantage they may act accordingly in such a manner that they spread some kind of, they help, they financially support some kind of terrorist outfits and for their own benefit. For example, if we talk about US, there are only just two political parties, right? But in India it is not the same scenario, and in the name of religion, in the name of gaining political power, and then religion and political power, they are being clubbed, and hate speeches are there, communal rights are there. So that can also be the reason for spread of terrorism. The reason for spread of terrorism, do not forget what we are talking about, what are the points. So this can be written as a 15-mark question, it can be asked, and you can give this example in your these examples in your exam. Next is, there is an international order of power also. The problem of international order of power is going on. The West countries, they are in clash with the Islamic fundamentalist, and in this war or in this fight, civilization is getting hurt. So this particular photograph, if you can make in such a way that there is a Western countries in a box, and then there are Islamist fundamentalists in the box, and what they are doing, they are fighting with each other, and in between there is civilization which is at clash. This can be one problem, and that is why there is a turmoil going on throughout the world. Definitely there are some poor societies and weak states, because of which they have some weak and collapsed structure, and there is a societal change also undergoing them. For example, you can give this example of fragility trap, where we can clearly write in the exam that there are some fractured societies, means the societies, they are fragmented, societies where the conversions are going on, societies where the dominance of one community over another, one religion over another. Then their governments are not stable, they are disturbed. In fact, in Afghanistan we have seen that the particular person, the leader of the government, he flew away. Then there is a weak institutions, they are not able to control the fights that is going on between the two countries. Insecurity among the masses, among the people is there, weak economy and vulnerability to the shock. These shocks can be natural, these shocks can be man-made, and that is why a country can fall into the trap of fragility, and this is how there can be societal change, collapse in the state, or maybe weak stature in the states. Then when we talk about semi-authoritarian states, we give the example of Pakistan, and we give the example of Myanmar. In Pakistan, you know that Pervez Musharraf, military rule, he did military rule in the country, then the democracy came up. So there is always a tussle between military and democracy. Similar situation is also in Myanmar, where military sometimes take over the particular area, particular region and country. So such kind of semi-authoritarian states, they are also somewhere responsible for the spread of terrorism and definitely resources. Taliban taking over the opium growing rich areas, ISIS taking over the particular oil wells. This is how these terror groups will be funded actually, and until unless they will be funded, how can they afford such arms, how can they afford a war actually? So resource scarcity, if there is a resource scarcity and there is occupation of the resources and concentration of resources at one point, definitely the country can be in hands of some terrorist outfits. So students, this is all about this particular answer. 15-mark answer can be written out of this particular topic, and even a topic of essay comes up tomorrow in future. You can code these examples in your exam. So this is the part 1 of the series. In the subsequent lectures, we will be dealing with more further topics, and I'll explain you more about terrorism, and particularly we also need to focus on the government approach, the security forces approach, and some amendments that has been done to counter the terrorism as well.